You know, when you think about the most incredible delivery network on the planet, you might think of Amazon or some high-tech drone fleet. But the truth is, the most amazing one is actually running inside you right now. We're talking about your circulatory system, and it is an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. So, let's dive into how this internal superhighway actually works. We're going to start with the sheer scale of it all. Then we'll explore the network of vessels, the roads themselves. After that, we'll meet the powerhouse, the heart, and check out the precious cargo that's in your blood. And we'll wrap it all up with how to keep your own system running perfectly.
All right, first things first. To really get a feel for this system, you have to appreciate the massive, massive job it's doing every single second of every day. It's a logistical puzzle that is just staggering to think about.
I mean, seriously, think about that. Your body has roughly 37 trillion cells, and every single one of them is a demanding little customer. They all need oxygen and nutrients delivered constantly, and they need their waste, like carbon dioxide, picked up immediately. How in the world do you build a system that can handle that kind of demand?
Well, this is the answer. This brilliant closed-loop network. It's an internal superhighway that makes sure every one of those trillions of cellular customers gets exactly what it needs, right when it needs it. No delays, no excuses.
Now, this superhighway isn't just one giant pipeline. Oh no, it's way smarter than that. Just like a real city, it's got massive highways for long-distance travel, smaller main roads, and these tiny little back streets. And each one is perfectly designed for its job.
So you've got your arteries. These are the big highways. They're carrying that fresh, oxygen-rich blood away from the heart. And because the heart is pumping with so much force, their walls have to be super thick and elastic to handle that pressure. Then you have the veins, which are the return routes. They bring the oxygen-poor blood back to the heart. The pressure here is a lot lower, so the walls can be thinner. And they've got these clever little one-way valves inside to make sure the blood doesn't start flowing backward. Pretty smart, right?
But honestly, the real magic, the place where the action is on the tiny local streets, the capillaries. These things are microscopic. Their walls are just a single cell thick. And that's the whole point. It's what allows oxygen and nutrients to just slip right out of the blood and into the cells, and for waste to pass back in. This is the last mile delivery point where everything happens.
And when I say microscopic, I mean it. Capillaries are so incredibly narrow that your red blood cells have to literally line up and squeeze through in single file. And that's not a bug, it's a feature. That slow single-file line maximizes the time for exchange, making sure every delivery and every pickup is a success.
Okay, a highway network is useless without traffic, and traffic doesn't move without an engine. And that brings us to the most incredible engine you can imagine, the heart. It's a powerful, relentless pump that just does not quit.
That familiar heartbeat, the cardiac cycle, is actually a really elegant two-step process. First, in phase 1, the two top chambers, the atria, fill up with blood returning to the heart. Then they give a little squeeze to push that blood down into the bigger, more powerful lower chambers, the ventricles. Then comes phase 2. Those muscular ventricles contract with incredible force, pumping the blood out to the lungs and the entire body. It's just a perfectly timed sequence. Fill, pump, fill, pump.
So what's coordinating that perfect rhythm? Well, the heart has its own built-in conductor, a tiny cluster of special cells called the SA node, or your natural pacemaker. It sends out a little electrical zap that tells the heart muscle exactly when to contract, keeping everything in perfect time.
All of this powerful pumping creates pressure in the system, and that's something we can measure. You've probably heard a doctor say something like 120/80. Well, that's just a snapshot of the pressure on your arterial highways. The top number is the pressure when the heart is actively pumping, and the bottom number is the pressure when it's resting between beats.
And get this, the heart is also a master multitasker. It's running two completely separate circuits at the same time. You've got the pulmonary circuit, which is the short loop. It sends used, deoxygenated blood over to the lungs for a quick oxygen refill. And then there's the systemic circuit. That's the long haul. It takes that fresh, oxygenated blood and pumps it out to every other nook and cranny of your body.
So, we have the roads and we have the pump. But what's actually driving on those roads? What's the cargo? Let's take a closer look at what's actually inside your blood.
Well, if you were to look at a single drop, you'd see it's mostly a yellowish fluid called plasma. That's the liquid part of the highway.
Then, a big chunk, about 44%, is made of red blood cells. And then there's this tiny sliver, less than 1%. That's your white blood cells and platelets. But don't let that small number fool you. They are absolutely essential.
The red blood cells are your oxygen delivery fleet. They are basically little disc-shaped trucks packed to the brim with a special protein called hemoglobin. Think of hemoglobin as a magnet for oxygen. It grabs onto oxygen in the lungs and refuses to let go until it gets to a cell that desperately needs it.
Then you have the white blood cells. These guys are the emergency services for your entire system. They're like a mobile defense force, constantly patrolling, hunting for invaders like bacteria or viruses. And when they find a threat, they swarm and destroy it. They're your internal police force and paramedics all rolled into one. And finally, we've got the platelets. These aren't even complete cells. They're more like tiny cell fragments, but they are your roadside repair crew. The second there's a leak or a cut in a blood vessel, platelets rush to the scene. They get sticky, clump together, and release chemicals that form this kind of web-like patch to seal the leak and stop the bleeding.
Now, one last thing about blood. It's not all the same. You know about blood types, right? A, B, AB, and O? Well, those types are based on little markers or antigens on the surface of your red blood cells. You can think of them like different team jerseys. Your immune system is trained to attack any jersey that isn't on the home team. That's why getting the right blood type during a transfusion is so incredibly important. You don't want your own body attacking the new blood.
It's an almost perfect system, isn't it? But, like any highway, it can run into problems. So let's talk about the most common kinds of traffic jams that can happen, and, most importantly, what we can do to prevent them.
The number one enemy of this system is a slow-motion traffic jam called atherosclerosis. This is what happens when gunk, fatty deposits called plaque, starts building up on the inside walls of your arteries. Over many years, this buildup narrows the road, making it harder for blood to get through and causing a major traffic problem.
And if that plaque causes a complete blockage, you have a major emergency. It really comes down to location. If the traffic jam happens in an artery that feeds the heart muscle itself, that's a heart attack. If the blockage happens in an artery going up to the brain, that's a stroke. In both cases, the result is the same. Vital cells are starved of oxygen and start to die.
Okay, but here's the good news. This isn't all doom and gloom. Actually, this is the empowering part. You are the chief maintenance officer for your own personal superhighway, and the maintenance plan is pretty straightforward. Eating a healthy diet, getting regular exercise to keep that heart pumping strong, not smoking, which is like pouring acid on your blood vessels, and managing your stress. These simple things can keep traffic on your highway flowing smoothly for a lifetime.
Just stop and think about that number for a second. Your heart is going to beat about 2.5 billion times. It never gets a day off. It never takes a vacation. This incredible system does all of that for you, non-stop. So the final question is pretty simple. What are you doing for it?
Keep curious and keep exploring the natural world around you. Thank you for subscribing to BioFun channel, where your curiosity fuels our exploration of the fascinating realms of biology.